All right, here we are back again for another podcast. Today, I'm honored to have the founder and developer. I think he's a one man show. We're about to find out today of Monero One wallet. Welcome to the show today, Mr. Joe.
Hey, thanks, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I talked to you. I DM'd you. I reached out on X, and after I found your wallet and was interested in speaking to you, been a privacy advocate in the crypto space since like 2017 ish, or maybe a little bit before. I know we're coming up on the 12th anniversary of Monero's launch. It launched on April 18th, 2014. So almost 12 years ago. So I don't remember exactly when I found Monero, but it's been a while. But yeah, so I'm glad to talk to somebody who's like still pushing the privacy train forward, and excited to learn a little bit more about what you're up to and how you came to found this project.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, I can't believe it's been that long already. But yeah, I guess it is since 14, right? To think that's 12 years ago now. Yeah. But makes us feel like old men. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, it definitely does. So let's just, I don't know how much you want to reveal about your backstory, but this is how I always start every interview. If you want to just talk about like your backstory in technology, you don't have to go back to like elementary school or anything, but your backstory and how you got interested in tech, or when you got interested in tech, when you found crypto, and just like go from there, I guess.
Yeah. So look, I'll share as much as I kind of can, right? So um, I've been into BTC, let's say, since 2012, right? When I say into, it doesn't necessarily mean I was buying it. That means that a couple of buddies of mine, let's say, were on some school computers looking at what's going on in the world of Bitcoin, and maybe it was $125 at the time, and we're thinking about, hey, what can we do here? What is this? What can we use it for? Fast forward a couple more years, and I considered going in with my father with let's say 5 grand a piece or something like that, or 2,500 bucks a piece for like 5,000. I said to him, I had money saved at the time. I said to him, if we go in on this, and his buddy who was a trader talked him out of it. But at the time it was Mount Gox was your only option. So when all the money got locked up, I said to him, I said, well, Bitcoin obviously rose to about $600, $1,200. And I said, we're kicking ourselves, of course. But then they have the Mount Gox lockups. And then I say, oh man, well, good thing. We could have just lost the money anyway. And then, of course, now more recently, the money starts getting unlocked. And I said to him, it would have been the greatest thing in the world, because we would have been forced to hold for all this time. And then after it was all done, we would have been able to pocket, what is it, a million, 2 million bucks a pop. So that was back then. And then in 17 or so, I got into the ICO crazes and started getting into more altcoins and things like that. And that was around the time that I bought Monero the first time. That's way back then. And looked into it and said, okay, this is pretty cool. What can we do here, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't really rediscover it. I think I just sat on that for a while until, more recently, where I started looking into it again a few years ago. Maybe it's 2026 now. This is probably 2022, maybe 2023. And the interesting thing that I had found is that more of the dark marketplaces, from what I was hearing, were pivoting away from BTC and into XMR. And as far as I understand, as it is today, that's pretty much the case. And so I found that extremely interesting from a market standpoint. And so that was back, let's say a few years ago. Now you have this situation more recently where people are starting to care about privacy again, right? You got guys like, I think it was Dorsey or someone else like that, who said, hey, you should use Signal. Everybody should use Signal. Signal was not a mainstream thing up until very recently. And now you have this sort of assurance of people that are migrating from these previously less private services to now more private services. And so I think that's why you're seeing this huge resurgence in Monero relatively recently, even in the past, let's say 45 days when we had that big pump. And, everyone can sit here and speculate, why that happened or what the situation was about it. But the truth of the matter is we had a large pump, which tells us that there was a large influx into XMR at the time. And that tells you a lot, I think. And so now, as far as, and this kind of leads into, I guess, the story of like how Monero One got started. I had used other options as far as wallets and, Cake and Eigen and the desktop wallet and things like that. And I started to realize two things. The first thing is that Bitcoin itself is not a very good use for payments. It was the original intention, and I think now, and this is just my opinion on the subject, it has morphed into more of a store of value, and that's what people are using it for. It's can be used for payments, and that's the original idea. But I think the marketing and the sort of manifestation of what it has become has led it to be more of a store of value than something that's used daily for payments. Monero, on the other hand, has significantly cheaper transactions and actually delivers on a lot of the initial promises of what Bitcoin was supposed to be. You see this with guys even like Peter Schiff, who are not a fan of crypto. And he says, Monero is what I thought Bitcoin was, right? So to get these sort of ringing endorsements, even yesterday, right? You saw Clav mention it on one of his streams or something. The guys were going nuts about that on X. And so based on a lot of this sort of resurgence, I started to think to myself, this is a few months ago now, and I said, I wonder if there would be demand for a simpler Monero wallet. And I said, something that was written in native. So I'm a developer. So this is also in history of me. So I've been a developer for about 7 years now. I've worked W-2'd at some boring companies, some interesting companies, some crypto companies. I've done contract work, doing smart contracts. I've done pretty much everything up the stack as far as back end, front end, data engineering, DevOps, pretty much everything that you would need in order to build your own application. I've done. And so recently I said to myself, I wonder if as a side project, if I could, how hard would it be to, I guess, exfiltrate some of the pieces of Monero sending onto a simple Swift-based iOS app. And I started actually looking at Cake's repository. So a lot of projects open source. You got Cake, you got Unstoppable, you got a few other guys. So I pulled open the Cake repos and even the Monero.com repos, which are roughly similar. More recently, they've unified them. But obviously, Monero.com only supports Monero, and Cake only supports many more. And I basically found out that it was going to be too difficult to compartmentalize out these pieces. And this is one night where I'm up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I then discover, quite by accident, that Unstoppable has built a Monero kit for iOS. And it's relatively straightforward, easy to implement. And if I were to put a nice, pretty UI UX on top of that, I think that would be pretty compelling. And I said, well, how hard could it be to do? So, within a very short period of time, that was when I, pretty much built the initial version of the app. And I started putting it out into the circles and community and saying, hey, what does everybody think of this? I actually asked them before I even built it. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, if I built this, would people be interested? Right? Because what's the sense in building something? Nobody wants to use it. So I got 3 or 4 people who said, if you build that, we will promote it. We will like it. We will, we'll tell you feedback of what to do, because we are we're large pillars within the community. So I said, okay, well, let's give it a shot. Built the initial version. I started, testing it. I put out the test flight finally, and it just picked up like wildfire within days, and within a few days, we had a ton of downloads. I had, the Cake guys were reaching out and messaging me on X, and I stumbled into this whole thing, and there was a lot of confusion as well about what repos I was using and where some of this code came from, and where is the the source. I did open source it immediately as far as what code was deployed to the test flight, but the way that I was doing it apparently wasn't proper. And so this is the thing, as a guy who comes from the closed source world where every company you work for, you built, you make a new GitHub account. I am not used to the open source nature of a lot of these things. And so I used the wrong license, and some guy called me out about it. He goes, you need to use the MIT license. And I said, then why do I need to use the MIT license? He said, because the MIT license states that anybody can use your code for anything they want. And that's the true definition of open source.
You ended up you ended up going that route, right?
Yep. And he goes, is it your intention to make this fully open source? I said, yeah. And he goes, then that's what you need to do. I said, then fair enough, and then within about a day or two, that's what I did. And then there was, what's it called? A lot of people that were, talking about it on X, and it starts kind of blowing up, and that's it. I've been muddling through the confusion pretty much ever since. And it's been this big, storm cloud of people that are, excited and requesting features and submitting bug reports and crash reports. And I've just been iterating on it kind of ever since. And that's it. And then as of just a week ago, I mean, literally, I think it's 1 week now. I can't believe it hasn't even really been that long since we got approved to be listed on the App Store. And we've had, great success there as well on top of the test flight users. I think I kind of accidentally launched on the Play Store as well. I discovered that this morning because apparently the open testing on Play Store actually completely opens it up where you don't even need the link. You can search the app directly in the Play Store and you can beta test it that way, which I didn't know because I'm not, Android's not my primary on a day-to-day. So anyway, so that's kind of, I guess, I'm sure I, went off on a tangent there a little bit, but that kind of gives you the story about, where I came from and how this all started and where we're at kind of now.
No, that was enlightening. I appreciate that. That was a good start to the conversation. Yeah, you launched what? The 13th. It is a week ago today, right? In iOS.
Yeah,
in the App Store. Yeah,
I believe it is a week ago. I woke up Friday morning, the 13th, and I had an email from Apple like, "Hey, your app's approved." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is tremendous!" And then I released it, and then it went out in let's say 100 and something countries. And there was 10 that it did, for whatever reason, it didn't go out. And I was like, what is going on here? And I check, and there's a bunch of guys it's not available in France. It's not available in Germany. What's going on? And so finally, a day or two later, I get a chance to actually open up App Store Connect to go, what is going on here? What is the holdup? Turns out I had to check about 5 boxes to be like, hey, I'm not of this, I'm not of that, I'm not of whatever to comply with EU regulations. And within 10 minutes, the app was then available in the EU. And so I put out a quick tweet and screenshotted it and told everybody, I said to everybody in the EU, don't worry about it. I fixed it. And that was it. Now everybody can use the app pretty much everywhere.
That's awesome. So, I didn't realize it was available in the EU now. Good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I within about 2 days, there was enough people that were talking about it that I was like, I figured, because it said from the status perspective, it said not in review, it was distributing or something along those lines, or distribution in process. So I'm figuring it might take a day or two. I'm just making assumptions at this point. And I'm busy, and then I finally go and look at it because I've got 7 people who are like, what is going on here? I'm like, what is going on? And I finally check it. I'm like, yep, bing, bing, bing. And then that was it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that was on my list of questions to ask you. How many countries? Do you know the exact number of countries you're in now? Then
I could tell you. Exactly right now. Hold on, let's find out. But feel free to, So yeah. Anyway, so it was a very funny story. But App Store Connect has been great as far as making it relatively simple for me to release the app. Android has definitely been more complicated because they require more things to get the app into testing, right? On iOS, you can put it into test flight and have people testing without really putting in a lot of information. But on Android, they require you to put in all this extra data as far as pictures and a description and all this stuff. And I was saying to myself at the time, I said, why do I need to put in all this information? And what's funny is I've now this morning realized the answer to that question. The answer is because when you list it publicly, they immediately put it on the Play Store, even though it's in testing, which is pretty funny in and of itself.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious why you're looking that up.
Yeah.
Are you still dabbling in it on any other blockchains? Or are you kind of just 100% interested in Monero now?
Well, I tell you what, I am interested in BTC and XMR for two different reasons. BTC, because it has become this global store of value, and because the risk profile is so much lower than other cryptocurrencies, right?
Right.
Bitcoin's dropped historically 70%. You could stomach that. If you had 100 grand and now it's 30 and the average was like 50 or 60, if you got a strong stomach, you could stomach that.
Right.
I got a strong stomach, but I don't know if I could stomach 95% drops and be okay with that. And so for that reason, it becomes difficult for a lot of people, which I understand. And so I think Bitcoin has its place, but I don't think it necessarily has a place being used on a daily basis for people's daily life transactions. That's why I'm such a big fan of Monero in general. And that's why the app is named Monero One. And I've gotten a lot of insight from folks asking me like, hey, are you considering, doing other blockchains? To which I say, listen, I'm not going to rule anything out definitively, but I think for the time being, I cannot imagine a need. I would need a really good, strong reason to do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of my logic.
Yeah.
So
you talked about the efficiency of Monero, like the transaction cost, how much cheaper it is to transact in Monero, but we haven't even talked about like the fungibility problem with Bitcoin. So as far as like using it as money, it's like 95% of people that own Bitcoin are proselytizing Bitcoin out there. They like don't even like, I don't know if they don't understand it or they just don't care because they don't have any intention to use it as money. But yeah, the fungibility issue is a major problem, and as more people are onboarded onto the Bitcoin blockchain, I can see that being like a bigger problem in the future as well. So it's interesting to think about like Monero. I think to be a good medium of exchange, you really have to be. It has to be, the money has to be fungible or to be good money. I mean, so Bitcoin's kind of morphed into this. In the beginning, I thought Bitcoin was all these different things. But I think I agree with you a lot in the fact that Bitcoin's become this store of value, more of a speculative asset, and Monero really meets all of the necessities of good money. It has everything. So it's definitely better to use peer to peer in my opinion as a money.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that is why you are seeing this huge interest that has spiked up even just in recent months into Monero. And my goal with Monero One in general is to make it accessible to the everyday person, because right now it is not. And I have friends, many of whom are not even in crypto at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? Naturally, we are pitching right now, we as the Monero community, let's say, are pitching Monero to crypto native folks. There are very few regular people who are saying, I want to use Monero specifically. They go to Bitcoin first and then they discover Monero.
Right.
I want to close that gap, right? Because I want to tell somebody, look I have an app. There is an app on the market today that you can offload your fiat government controlled dollars into a currency that makes you truly sovereign over your own money, that nobody can take away from you and nobody knows what you do with it, just like cash, right? This is the real digital cash. And I think that, like I said, the adoption on the dark side of things is how Bitcoin started to begin with, because that's how real money is used initially, is to subvert governmental control. However, we're in a situation now, especially where governments are clamping down in every country, more so in some countries than others. But you're starting to see that not just with governments, but with corporations. Not everybody can use Cash App. Not everybody can use Venmo. Not everyone can use Zelle. They get banned for any reason. It could be political dissent. It could be because you're selling something somebody doesn't like. It could be just because your transaction limits go too high, that you're deemed too risky. There's 101 reasons. And I see this every single day. Every day I see this on X. People talking about this. And the truth is, nobody cares about it until they're the one who's affected. Right. And I did check, by the way. So we're live in 175 countries right now.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
So yeah, it's really good as far as the App Store, and iPhones are I think definitely US dominant. I don't think they're worldly dominant, which is why I think you are seeing a lot of people also downloading our Android version. But the iPhone is typically for the user, the more average user, right? That's who we're trying to target. But obviously we want to have features for everybody, right? Which is why we have things like Tor integration. You can put in private nodes. All the code is open source, right? So I want everyone from the most savvy developer to say, hey, I'm the biggest pain in the ass you could ever deal with, right? I need this, I need this, I need this, I need maximum threat modeling, right? Mm-hmm. And then I want to tell the person who's like, I've never even touched crypto before. I don't even know what I'm doing. I have money in my bank account. How do I use this to pay my dog sitter or my babysitter? Or how do I buy my groceries with this? Right. I mean, you already see that now in Switzerland, right? With some of the integrations they've done with Spar. So I think it's only a matter of time before more people start to care as governments and corporations start clamping down on them. And they need a place to go. And this is the place to go. So.
Yeah, what is the saying that bad money drives good? How does it go? Bad money drives good money out of circulation. That was kind of the thing people were talking about with Bitcoin. But if you want real economic growth, you have to actually have a way to store your value. Like in the early days of Bitcoin, that was kind of like all of the Austrians, people like me, anarcho-capitalists, people that really don't believe in the state. That was the theme. And then it kind of was co-opted by these really loud thought leaders. I don't need to talk about the names. We all knew who they were. And, the cypherpunk edge really was just peeled back big time on Bitcoin. So it's definitely refreshing to hear your perspective on the whole thing as well. Can you tell me a little bit, what is trusted locations for people that don't know a lot about that? And if you want to talk a little bit about how hard it was or how easy it was to integrate Tor.
So those are two questions, and I'll answer both of them. So trusted locations came about as a feature to allow people to sync based on their location and have insight into where they are. So they are not syncing from a place they don't want to. Now, technically, you could search for that through Wi-Fi or cellular connectivity and say, hey, only on these Wi-Fi networks, etc. But I can also imagine universes for people who travel outside of the country where they say, hey, listen, I'm okay syncing in this part of this country. I then get on and you can set radiuses on these locations, right? So your home could be your whole hometown if you want it to be. I actually don't know what the maximum is on it right now, but it's a decent amount. And you say, hey, when I fly out of the country, I want to make sure it's not syncing over there at all. And you have two options. You can either have it warn you when you're outside of that location and it'll still sync, but then you have that awareness of where you're at, or it'll block it completely. And part of this feature enables people to sync in the background, which is something that is very difficult to do on iOS. Now, the good news about the location piece of this is that because all the code is open source, anyone can see that I'm not collecting this data. The data goes onto the phone. It's used to surface you the live activity, and that's it. I don't even use Apple's notifications. I had a question about this yesterday. Somebody said to me on X, they said, what if we had no notifications for transactions? I said to them, I don't want to do that. The reason is because all of those notifications rely on Apple's servers. Google the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided that that is not worth it. The live activity, however, doesn't, because it persists in the background as a function of the application continuing to run. It was a difficult thing to figure out product-wise. Technically, it was, I would say, medium difficulty, right? It took a decent amount of effort.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything insane. And then some of the other pieces that we're doing that, to be honest, I don't know that anyone else is doing this, which is handing off from precinct blocks. So if your wallet is at 80 or 90%, it does not ever, unless you reset the app, fully resync from the wallet's birthday. So it keeps all those existing blocks saved to your device. So that way you don't have to continuously resync. I posted something, I think yesterday, where I was like, hey, I love looking at this live activity screen because I know the app is always in sync. So that's that feature. Tor integration is another piece. I had a lot of questions about adding Tor integration. Wasn't the hardest thing in the world to add. And right now, it's through a proxy, right, that you run on your device through Orbot or similar. And for people who care enough, this is my logic, for people who care enough to use Tor, they're going to have that other application anyway, and they'll set it up for their existing threat model. If I were to add the Tor binaries into the app, where you could just press a button and say Tor on, I think Cake does this, it bloats the app significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there is a huge benefit in doing that, because the users that are going to be doing that are going to have Tor separately anyway, or not even maybe on their device, but they run it locally on their network. And if they're doing that, then they can proxy it through that server that they have locally, and then they can use the nodes over Tor. Somebody else told me something else very interesting this morning about certain services being blocked over Tor. So he was saying something along the lines of, in Cake, if you go to buy a gift card, and again, I haven't verified this, but this is just what somebody told me this morning. He said, if you go on Cake to buy a gift card with over Tor, it blocks a lot of the options.
I'm in your Telegram. I actually saw that.
Yeah, you saw that. You saw that. So I found that interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give the users that, that flexibility to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. And I very well may even have another option that says, hey, look, all traffic goes over Tor, or the wallet traffic goes over Tor only, and everything else in the app does not. So I very well may do that.
The sync in the background is pretty badass. Are you the first one to do that with Monero, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Nobody has done that, at least as far as on iOS. Yeah. On Android, I think the Cake guys figured it out last year, but on iOS, nobody's done it.
I applaud you for that, sir. Very well done. So when you didn't give me dates, how long did it take you to from conception to actually last Friday launching? What was we talked about it, but you didn't give me how many months was it, or weeks, or whatever?
A couple months, maybe 2 months, something like that. I think, because It's March now, and I started this end of January, maybe halfway through January, something along those lines. And it was a lot of nights and weekends, and people who follow my test flight know they will get emails at 1 o'clock in the morning, very, very often of hey, there's a new build out. So that does happen, relatively frequently. That's
how many hours are you contributing to it a day, would you say?
It varies.
Yeah.
It could be 16 hours. It could be 3, depending on what else I got going on, or it could be 0, right? Depending on what else is going on. Yeah. But especially on weekends, you'll see me contributing quite a bit. And usually there's a lot that's going to be done. So my plans for this weekend, I was telling a few people that were asking me, they said, what's going on in the Android universe? They were saying, oh, we got Tor. What's going on with Tor? And I just realized that I forgot to add it. And I added it on iOS and a few other things, and I haven't really updated the Android version so much. And so I gotta kind of bring it up to feature parity with what we've already got in the iOS version. So I need to do that this weekend, and then I got to update the website. If you go to Monero.one right now, it still shows like it's test flight only, and we've been live for like a week. So it's a consequence of being the one man army,
Right.
And that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you think? It's interesting to even think about because this is like your first wallet you've built. So I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you think? Do you feel like creating like a Solana wallet or I'm not a Solana. I'm a bit huge. I like Near a lot. I think Near is like as far as like a layer one is probably like the best layer one for smart contracts. They're doing a lot. They're doing confidential SWAT or privacy stuff now too. Um, let's just. I guess I'm trying to say. Do you think it would be easier now? This you already did the hard thing, right? You did the privacy side. So creating like a standard Solana wallet or Bitcoin wallet would probably be like super easy, right?
It would.
Yeah.
Here's the reason I haven't done that. Two reasons. The first reason is there are already solutions that are very good. I'm a big fan of the Phantom app. Works extremely well. As a guy who just recently started playing around with Solana, I say recently, maybe last 6 months,
Hmm.
and the Phantom app is very good. I like Phantom in general. I don't know how it operates from a privacy perspective because that's not my goal with that app. But from a user experience perspective, it makes it extremely easy to use Solana and run smart contract calls and things like that. In the Bitcoin universe, same thing. There are already great options for people to use Bitcoin. And like if we I haven't looked in a little while, but if we look right now, right, and we just type in, Bitcoin on the App Store, we can see what wallets already exist for that. So you've got Bitcoin.com wallet buy sell, right? You've got Trust Wallet. You've got I know Cake supports Bitcoin. Let's say Bitcoin Wallet X Crypto, Blockchain, Crypto.com, another Bitcoin wallet, BitPay, Bybit, and a lot of these are non-custodial. I think Coinbase even has their own non-custodial one.
Yeah, they do.
Base, right? Let's see.
Edge Wallet is
Edge,
a good one.
Crypto.com. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had the founder of Edge.
I'm just scrolling through right now.
He's a big privacy guy too. There's quite a few options though. Yeah.
There's quite a few options, is my point. And so if you're in the crypto space, you already have plenty of options. If you are in the Monero space, you have like 2, maybe 3 options on mobile, something like that. There's probably more that I'm not familiar, but basically it's like you got Cake, you got Unstoppable, you've got Stack. The Stack developer is a really cool guy. I talked to him as well on. They all are, for the most part. I got no problems with anyone. Actually, everyone's been extremely supportive. I've spoken to Vic from Cake. I've talked to the guys from Unstoppable. Obviously, they helped me out with the Monero kit stuff. And the Stack guy as well. I had heard about Stack I think a little while ago and just rediscovered it recently. But my point being is that the other thing is with these wallets for Bitcoin, let's say, is I feel like most people are just using them to store the crypto, right? They're storing their Bitcoin and then maybe they send it once in a while or buy sell, let's say. With Monero, like we talked about earlier, in my vision of the world, where you're using this on a daily basis, you're paying your friends, you're paying for different things with it, you're spinning up, virtual Visa cards, you're getting paid in it. You're getting paid and paying bills with it, ideally. All these different things are where I think eventually this all goes. But it's going to take a lot to kind of get us there. And so I have considered, right, doing like a Crypto.one or a Bitcoin.one or something like that, or integrating some of these other pieces. But I think for now, staying focused at least on the Monero side and making sure that I do this one thing really well, we can always expand later. Nobody's stopping us from doing something else down the road, right?
Yeah, that was something I was interested in asking you about, like any plans. The debit cards or whatever are getting pretty popular now, and I see a lot on my feed with Monero. So being able to spend it is like the next thing, like outside of just your GUI or your app, for example. It'd be pretty cool. It is pretty cool that you can do that now. So I was actually gonna ask about that.
Yeah. So I have a few opinions on the cards. The first thing is that a lot of no KYC solutions are corporate cards. Now, for those people who don't know the implication of that, it basically means it's a no KYC card for you because some business has already gone through the full KYC process and they're essentially adding you as like an employee on their card, which is, from a compliance standpoint, extremely dangerous because those cards can get shut down at any moment. Not to mention, at least as far as the United States goes, and I can only really speak for the United States because those are the laws that I know the best. I know there are other laws in other countries that we will follow, but as far as the United States goes, you're considered an unlicensed money transmitter because you are taking someone's funds into your custody and using them and putting them somewhere else. Anytime you move somebody else's money from one place to another place, you're an unlicensed money transmitter. Right now, we're just software, right? And people who use the Monero One software are sovereign over their own coins. I have no control of anyone's coins. I have no knowledge about what anyone does in the app. I don't even know half the people who are using the app. The only reason I know any information about anyone who uses the app right now is because they used their email to sign up for test flight. And you don't even need to do that. You can use the public test flight link and it shows up in my App Store Connect as anonymous. So I don't know who you are, what you're doing, or anything else. And the App Store is even better because I have no information about who any of those people are. So anyway, so that's so that's a little bit. I probably got off topic from where we were originally.
No, no, no.
That's
You
what's
don't
going
want
on.
to be labeled as a money transmitter. It's that's why I
No,
brought it up. It's definitely interesting to think about because it's something is somebody who just got back into the privacy realm as well more recently again.
yeah,
It's interesting even even seeing people use the cards. It's you have to flush out the idea and think about the whole thing. So I haven't done a lot of research
yeah,
into it, and yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that aspect that you said of that somebody has KYC those already, basically, and that you're
yeah.
what did you call it, an employee or
Your if it's a corporate card,
yeah.
right? It means let's say I spin up a new entity and I call
Mhm.
it like RL Enterprises, right?
Right.
And I take that account and I use something like a Rain Cards or someone like that, right? And I say, hey, look, I'm RL Enterprises. I'm a business and I need these cards. And it's a card that uses some service that deposits crypto into it and then can spend that crypto, right? In this case, we're depositing XMR. Now, what happens is you, as RM Enterprises, can spin up employee cards with no information at all, except maybe a name, right? And you don't even really have to provide that. I mean, you can put anything you want. Nobody's checking that, right? Because they're your employees. You don't need their information, right? So essentially, a lot of these cards, what they're doing is, I'm not going to say names, but some of these providers are basically creating employee cards. I mean, it's smart from a, I guess, technical and like getting around things perspective, but it's less so smart from a compliance and rule following standpoint.
Right.
And so it becomes dangerous just for those end users, just in the perspective of if it gets shut down and money gets seized, which can happen. Now, as far as the United States, and I'll tell you real quick as well, so we can button up this topic. My plans for cards, uh, at least as far as the United States goes, you can, with no KYC, buy. There's a limit of like a couple thousand. I don't know what the limit is. It's like $1,000 or a couple $1,000s. A prepaid, non-reloadable Visa card, totally legitimate. Okay, nothing wrong with doing that. No KYC required. That you can do. The problem is, as I mentioned, non-reloadable, which makes it extremely annoying
Mm-hmm.
because then, let's say me as a user, every time I want to use another card or I run out of funds on that card, I got to switch cards to a new card, Maybe I add that new card on Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever I'm using. And then, and only then, can I actually use the card to pay for the things I want to pay for, which becomes extremely annoying. Which is why I think, although cards are important, and I will probably support some version of what I've just described, the more critical piece is, why aren't you able to pay directly with XMR? And that's the next step, is bringing on those merchants to at least be able to pay for some services with XMR. Or I'll give you another example of a universe that I want to live in. For people who, let's say, care less about the privacy and care more about the sovereignty, right? I can imagine a universe, and I'm talking to some providers about doing this right now, where you get your paycheck, comes in direct deposited, automatically gets switched into XMR. Now you've got XMR in your wallet that you hold. And when you want to go to pay for something, let's say your credit card bill, I'm a big fan of, let's say, the Amex Blue Business Plus, which gets you like 2x on all purchases. I'm not sponsored. I like that card. And I need to pay that card at the end of the month through a ACH transfer, at least as far as the United States goes. And you could set up a virtual account number that then pulls from your Monero balance and pays off that card. Now, you'd have to be KYC'd with that provider in order to do that. But you gain still the sovereignty of your money, right? Although you lose a little bit of privacy. So again, it all depends on your threat model, what your goals are, things like that. So anyway, those are my two plans. I would say on that fund.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. And the conversation there, it would be like, it's like you could have that the last one you just talked about. You could have that kind of set up to a hot wallet or something, and it wouldn't have to be like your primary wallet.
Exactly.
And then the one you talked about before that I think BitRefill kind of does something close to that. I don't know if you've used BitRefill. They allow you to buy a lot of stuff, but they don't accept Monero as far as I remember. They may, but I don't think they do. So yeah, I like that idea. But yeah, they do something similar with like merchants. But yeah, they were just compromised they just announced they were compromised in the last week though. So that's a totally different subject. We got to wrap this up here. I have like two more quick questions.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
One is we got off topic a little bit about the background sync. I just wanted to ask you real quick, does that compromise your battery life at all? Or how does it drain it at all? Or is it kind of just no issues there?
It depends on how much it's syncing, right? If for example, and that's why it's an optional feature, right? Because there are battery life implications to doing that. However, if you want to take your phone and just leave it on the charger, but you want it to sync in the background, or if you don't care because you're like, hey, I'm getting home in 30 minutes, so it makes no difference to me, then you can do that. The other thing is, I will say this. The bigger point is not really the background sync, it's the caching of the blocks. Because once you've gone and done that initial sync, you could essentially be offline for a month, and maybe within five minutes, let's say, it could fully sync in the last month of blocks. So it becomes less of a concern the more you use it. It's really only a concern on that initial longer sync.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I think it's one of the best features of the wallet, maybe the best. I like it a lot. Yeah, I just want to ask you like one last question. I guess the roadmap. I kind of talked to you offline about it a little bit, or off camera a little bit about it. We talked a little bit about it today. Is there anything like pressing or other than you working on the iOS or on the Android side and tour this weekend that you want to like drop today or mention?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm working on right now. I have a few branches in the code base. I have gotten multi-wallet working. I have not added read wallets to it yet, but that's coming. My general roadmap is going to be, which I'm going to say right now on the podcast. Once I've buttoned up some stuff with Android, let's say, and fixed the website and some other housekeeping things. Multi-wallet. There's two paths. One of them is multi-wallet, read-only wallets pretty much at the same time. After that is going to come hardware wallets, of which I'm working on, and I'm getting some developer units as well from some of those providers to mess with that. And this very well may happen simultaneously on a separate branch, right? So this is one set of features that I need to, in my mind, I think we need to have multi-wallet before we have hardware wallets, because I want people to be able to have the hot wallets and the cold wallets at the same time. Because if you have a hardware wallet, chances are you do have more than one. And it also makes it easier for me to test to make sure the rest of the app doesn't break. So there's that. And then on the other side of things, it's swaps. Swaps are going to be coming probably sooner than anyone thinks. I've already got an end-to-end flow working. I'm evaluating providers right now. I have to actually have some meetings next week with providers to kind of figure out how I want to do it. I'm probably only going to go with one to start, and we're going to take things from there. Because I want to ensure that I'm delivering the best experience for the users. I don't want to have the users even need to choose a provider necessarily. But if I pull up my master feature list just real quick here, just to mention some other things that are coming, naming sub addresses, naming those wallets actually in the multi-wallet as well. I'm going to have an option where you can not have a PIN if you don't want it. I'm going to be adding, let's see what else we have. Easy mode. So the wallet, like for total noobs who have no idea what's going on, there's going to be an even easier mode that we already have set up. Somebody else said automatically generating sub addresses. Oh, USD input. This is going to be part of probably an ancillary release relatively shortly, where like when you go to send, you can't type in the US dollar amount, and some people want to be able to do, or the fiat amount. People want that. I'm going to add that. That's relatively easy. What else do we have here? Offsetting passphrases, some other different seed types.
So you would actually like set, instead of typing in the decimal amount, you type in like the US, like the dollar amount,
the fiat amount,
yeah.
And it'll convert it over. And that's a highly requested feature, and it's very simple to do, and it's going to be coming in an upcoming release. Oh, and then obviously the nearby sending feature. So this is a huge thing that I teased weeks ago that's still sitting on my local branch that I just haven't pushed. And part of that as well was, like I said, I was prioritizing the App Store release, because now I want to start rolling out some of these cool features that are more, not risky, but like, more risky in that it could break something in the app where something crashes or whatever. But I'm going to start releasing the cool stuff to test flight users like relatively shortly, as far as like the nearby payments and things like that.
Awesome, man. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm a user of the wallet now, so I'm hoping that you just crush it the rest of the year. Maybe you and I can have another conversation, Q4 this year or something like that, and we can hear more about the progress.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah, and if you want to just real quick, where can people find you?
Oh yeah, so absolutely. So on X, I'm Joe_IO. JOE_IO. We do have a Monero One account on X, but it's I'm working through with X because they suspended it, I think, because they think it's the official whatever. It's irrelevant. So I'm working on that, but that's going to be Monero_One. Once that's all sorted out. On Telegram, this one's important. I'm Joe_IO_0. I do have that in my Twitter bio, X bio, just so there's no confusion, because somebody was impersonating me. So just be careful. If I message you first, make sure I'm messaging you from one of my official accounts. Website, Monero.one. It doesn't get easier than that. I need to update the website. Hopefully by the time this airs, that'll be updated. And that's it. You can find us on the App Store. Just type in Monero or Monero One. It should kind of come right up. I did post a tweet as well, because there were some other wallets that kind of looked like us that some people were getting confused about. So make sure it says Monero One specifically on the App Store. Excellent. And apparently the Play Store as well.
Hey man, I appreciate your time. I think it's really cool what you've been building, and let's see where we can get Monero, in the next couple of years. I really hope that we can, continue to spread the sovereign money narrative to everyone. And this will be available on my website, BryerMedia.com, and my X handle is at rbryer23. I'm going to try to upload the whole video there by the end of today. So we're only a week out from the launch of this wallet. So everybody share this, and let's just see what happens. And Joe, once again, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me on. Good talking to you.
Hang on one sec. I'll say a proper goodbye.
Sure.